Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Fusionary Health Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Shivani Gupta, and I have an incredible guest in store for you today. Udo Erasmus is the founder of an incredible product and an incredible movement around healthy fats. He wrote the book Fats That Heal, Fats That Kill, and we're going to talk about fat today, healthy fats, fish oil, why fish oil might not be the best thing since sliced bread for all of us. And then we're also going to get into nature as the ultimate healer because he and I are very much in alignment around what truly heals us in the world. So Udo, thank you so much for coming onto the podcast today.
Well, thank you for having me on because this is way more fun than talking to myself in the bathroom mirror.
For sure. So will you start us off by explaining what brought you to creating Udo's oil, which is, it's a product I took in the 90s. I remember my naturopathic doctors were like, you need Udo's oil. And I would have it. So it's incredible to be meeting you today.
Yeah. Well, so the long story is I was born in 1942 in what was then Poland, is now Germany. And so I ended up as a war baby, refugee, and orphan for a while, and eventually got reunited with the family. And the reason why I tell that story is it really defined me. I was always really shy. I didn't know what I could trust. And I never felt safe because there was a really crazy time. I was 2 years old when all this happened. And when we were in Germany after the war, I was listening to adults argue, and they had these really intense arguments that really made me uneasy. And it was always about stuff that I thought about, well, why are they arguing about that? That's so trivial. At 6 years old, it's trivial, so it's got to be really trivial. And the thought came to me, I was 6 years old. I said, man, there must be a way that people can live in harmony. And this cocky voice that of a 6-year-old that doesn't know how complicated everything is said, and I'm going to find out how people can live in harmony. And that's been my driver all my life. I think we live way too low compared to how well we could live. And I would say that's true for 8 billion people on the planet, including me, right? Because what is possible for a human being in every level, doesn't matter if you talk legal or you talk political or you talk health or you talk relationship, all of them, we settle for so little when so much is possible. And so then when I was studying, I went into science because I wanted to understand how things work, because that gives you some prediction and control. And that was good for a very insecure kid. So I always wanted to find out how everything worked. And I wrecked a lot of things, doing experiments, trying to figure out how things work, how the world works. Then I got into biology, biological sciences, because I wanted to know what life is. And biology is the study of life. But it turns out you don't study biology in biology. You study form and function. You never get a handle on life. So anyway, that's it. Then I went to psychology, how thinking works and what soul is. But you don't study soul in psychology. Then I took a year of medicine. I thought I would learn about health because that seemed to me, I was always wanted to know what the good stuff is. So then health, because they call it healthcare. Well, I'm only learning about disease. I went to the dean and said, what is health? He said, we don't know. We're working on it. But they're not even working on it because they keep focusing on disease. You don't learn what health is when you only focus on what disease is. And then they define disease or health as the absence of disease. Actually, health is the natural state, and disease is misalignment from that natural state. So they even have the definition backwards. So this is not a healthcare system. So then eventually I left and I got into psychedelics, and that kind of melted the door off my war baby personality and kind of say, oh my God, there's so much more that's possible. And then I got into a self-knowledge practice. And then I got married and we had 3 kids, and my marriage broke up and I wanted to kill something. So I took a job as a pesticide sprayer. I knew better, but I was upset. And after 3 years of being really careless, I got poisoned by
Wow.
pesticides. So I had good background in science. The doctor said to me, "We don't have anything for pesticide poisoning, right?" So in other words, we're throwing these poisons by the millions of tons into the
Right.
environment, and then when it makes somebody sick, we don't have a solution for it, right? And the only point for making pesticides is to kill living
Correct.
things, right? You kill them either by messing up their nervous system, or you kill them by wrecking up their oxygen system, respiration, right? So I got poisoned, and when she said we don't have anything for pesticide poisoning, I realized it became really real for me, the notion that my health is my responsibility. Right. I knew it, but it's like, that's not, oh yeah, I know my health is my responsibility, and I'm eating donuts, yeah. Right? Or whatever, right? Oh yeah, I know my health is, yeah. And so then we always lived Russian roulette. What can I get away with? And people ask me those questions all the time. What can I get away with? You don't get away with anything. But anyway, I got poisoned, and then I said, okay, well, the body's made out of food, water, and air, but I wasn't looking at water and air, just food. The body's made out of food. I knew that 98% of the molecules or the atoms in your body are removed and replaced every year. So your body is a major construction site. So if you're sick and you want to be healthier, then what you need to do is raise your standard of food intake. And then within 1 year, you will have rebuilt 98% of your body to a higher standard. That's why healing is possible. That is healing. That's why healing is possible, because your body's always turning over. That's why you have to eat, because your body's always turning over. You got to keep replacing atoms and molecules, right? And then I started looking at, well, nutrition and health, nutrition and disease. Body's made out of food. So let me get into the research. I hadn't done that at university. I had done I had done physiology and biochemistry and genetics and all that. So I had a good background to do that. So I was on my own. I'm going and looking at all this, and it's minerals, vitamins, amino acids, fatty acids. And I got stuck on oils because it was really contradictory. So I read a study that said omega-6 is an essential nutrient. That means it's a nutrient you can't make in your body from anything else, but you have to have it to live and be healthy, so it has to come in from outside. If you don't get enough of any essential nutrient long enough, you die. You deteriorate and then you die. But if you bring enough of that missing essential nutrient back into your body before you die, all of the problems that come from not getting enough are reversed, because life knows how to build a body provided you take responsibility here at your mouth to make sure all of the building blocks it needs that you can't make or that it can't make in your body land in your body so it can do the job. Right? That's all it requires of you. Okay. And there's 18 minerals, 13 vitamins, 9 essential amino acids, and 2 essential fatty acids that fit that description. And for each one of those, researchers have identified biochemical reactions in the body that require that nutrient, and without which those reactions cannot take place. So very, very precisely defined. So omega-6 is an essential nutrient. And the very next study I read says omega-6 gives you cancer and kills you. And my head exploded. It's like, wait, I have to eat it so it can kill me? Where in nature would that be fair? Right? That's like, if you look at God, he kills you. We were told that as kids. He loves you unconditionally, but if you look at him, he kills you. What? Anyway, so I got stuck in oils because I had to resolve that difference. And I'd been poisoned, so I didn't need marketing answers. I needed real answers, right? And so I'm looking through all of this stuff, and it made me look deeper, and I realized that omega-3 and omega-6, the 2 essential fatty acids that come from oils, are the most sensitive of all of our essential nutrients. You can flip them on a shelf, you can leave them there for 10 years, and when you can still eat them after 10 years and no problem. Well, oils are damaged by light, by oxygen, by heat. And omega-3 is 5 times more sensitive than omega-6 to damage by light, oxygen, and heat. So then I found out that when oils are made, they're treated with harsh chemicals, sodium hydroxide and phosphoric acid, very corrosive acid, base and acid. Then they're bleached to get the color molecules out, because the color molecules absorb light, and the light then damages the oil. And then the oil goes rancid when they've bleached it. So now they have to heat it to frying temperature for about half an hour to get rid of the rancid molecules. And in that process, 0.5 to 1% of the molecules, the oil molecules, are damaged. They're changed from something natural that life knows that works in your body to something unnatural that never existed in nature, that life never made a breakdown program for. So they become toxic, they pile up in your body, and wherever they go, they interfere with what's supposed to be going on in that space in your body biochemically. Wow. Okay? And then I called the Oil Chemists Society, who's the umbrella organization for the oil industry. And I said, I want to talk to a researcher. And they put him on the line, and I said, well, when you know that deodorization, that's what they call that high temperature process, when you know that it causes damage, why do you do that? Because I got that information out of their journal. It's called Lipids, right? So he says, well, one of the reasons we do that is because we can get rid of half of the pesticides in the oil. And in my head, I'm going, oh, you mean the other half of the pesticide stays in there? I didn't even know at that point that there were pesticides in oils, because I never thought about it, never learned about it in biochemistry at the university. They never talked about that. So in my head, I'm going, oh, the other half stays in. Well, that's not good. I've been poisoned by pesticides, so there's a trigger word for me. Right? So I said to him, why don't you start with organically grown seeds? And there was a huge silence at the other end of the line. I don't know, it might have only been 3 seconds, but it seemed like an eternity. So I'm waiting, and it's silence. And then he got back, and he was angry. He said, I don't know what your problem is. The oil is 99% good, and it's only 1% damaged. And if you got 99% on an exam, you'd be damn happy, wouldn't you? So So now I'm backing off, and I said, well, it's only 1%. Maybe I'm overreacting. So I got off the phone, and I decided, okay, let me do the math. How many molecules are we talking about? Right? Because that must make a difference. Quantity, right? It's the quantity that makes the poison, right? So I asked the question, if I have a tablespoon of oil that is 1% damaged, how many damaged molecules am I going to find in that tablespoon of oil? So I want you to guess. I know you don't have the basis for doing it, but I want you to guess, because you'll see why that's really important.
1,000?
Okay, 1,000. 1,000, that's 3 zeros, right? Okay. Would you like to know the actual number? It's a 6 followed by 19 zeros.
That's insane.
60 quint. If an oil is 1% damaged, a tablespoon of that oil will have 60 quintillion damaged molecules in it. That's more than 1 million damaged molecules for every one of your body's 60 trillion cells. Now, the reason why I'm saying that is your estimate is basically 60 quadrillion times lower than it actually is. And most people, when I ask this question, they underestimate by 1 billion or more times the damage they're doing to their body using those oils. And so the idea is, look, if you're going to get on an airplane, and you got your boarding pass, and you're ready to board, and a guy taps you on the shoulder, and you know the guy, he's the truth teller in the world, right? He says to you, did you know that your chance of crashing and dying on this flight home for the holidays is 60 quadrillion times higher than you thought it was? Would you get on the airplane? Yeah. I was in Ireland. I told them I would canoe back to Canada.
Yep. People can do it on a
Right?
boat.
But we're literally just about the whole world that uses these damaged oils, because all the oils that line the shelves, colorless, odorless, tasteless oils, they're underestimating the damage they're doing to themselves by more than 1 billion times. And that maybe could get people to thinking that maybe I should be eating whole foods, seeds and nuts that get me the oils if they're fresh, undamaged. Maybe I shouldn't be using these oils. And then if you fry the oil, you have to multiply that number I gave you, 60 quintillion, by another 3 to 6 times, because frying is super damaging to oils. And frying is the dumbest thing we've ever invented to do to food, if health is what we want.
And we love frying food.
Right? And then there's plastic in there, because plastic swells when you put oil in it, and then the plastic leaches into oil quicker than into water. And then there's pesticides in the oil. And then you do not 1 tablespoon, but 2 to 4 for most people every day. So you've got to multiply that in. And then you do that for 30 years, so you have to multiply the number of damaged molecules you put into your body by 11,000, which is about how many days there are in 30 years. And then one day you go to the doctor and you do your checkup, and he says, oh, by the way, you have cancer. And I say, well, how could I have cancer? I always ate good. You didn't even know that the worst thing we do, that more health problems come from damaged oils than any other part of nutrition, worse than white sugar, and more health benefits come from stopping to use damaged oils and finding sources of oils that are in their natural state, or oils made with health in mind. When I learned all of that, I said, man, I can't get healthy on oils like that. We should make oils with health in mind. So you have to build a very, very tight production system, so no light, no oxygen, no heat gets to the oil while it's being pressed, filtered, settled, filled. You put it in glass bottles because they don't leach. They're organically grown seeds. You put the nitrogen on top. That everybody does that. And then you put a box around it so that no light can get to the oil, even though it's already in a brown glass bottle, right? And then you keep it refrigerated in the factory, in the stores, at home. And if it's in transit longer than 2 weeks, it's even refrigerated in shipping. And we do that when we ship it to Europe and ship it to Asia. It's shipped refrigerated. And I started that. And then I learned the year after I got poisoned. I got poisoned in 1980. 1981, it was established that omega-3 is an essential nutrient, because they guessed about it. They debated about it. Nobody wanted to work with them because they're 5 times more easily damaged than omega-6s. And there's fewer sources. So we lowered our omega-3 intake down to 1/6 of what people got in 1850. And we raised our omega-6 intake really high, doubled, tripled, maybe 10 times even. So the balance between the two is also important, because if you get too much of one, it crowds out the other. If you get too much of the other, it'll crowd out the one. So we started with flax oil as the richest source of omega-3, because 99% of the population doesn't get enough for optimum health. When I found that out, I had an epiphany. It was, oh my God, this is worth doing. Oh my God, if we could make them with health in mind and we could bring them back to the population where almost everybody isn't getting enough, oh my God, we could help almost everybody. And there's something that feels really good in your chest when you help, right? The same place feels bad when you hurt people. And the idea that I could help so many people, I was like, oh my God, I have a purpose. I'm on a mission from God now.
I get that completely.
and it was that thing, realizing that I could help so many people. That was the drive behind, getting out on the road. We went on the road in a van without air conditioning in 1988 through the United States, We went to 85 cities in 101 days. We did 35 states, 17,000 miles by road in a van without air conditioning in the hottest months, July, August, half of September,
Wow.
half of June. Talked to everybody who would listen to us. Started a buzz in 2 years. In 2 years, flax oil was the second highest selling oil in the natural foods arena, which is where we were active. and we literally worked all day, drove all night. I don't remember ever feeling like I was working or this was too hard. There was a lot of challenges. We worked our buns off, but but the inspiration is what carried it. Oh my God, we could help so many people, and that's how that started. And then I became omega-6 deficient on flax oil because it has a lot of omega-3. It's the only oil, that and chia seed oils. It has omega-3, a lot of omega-3 and very little omega-6. And I used it exclusively as my source of oil because I wanted to see what would happen, because I didn't think the ratio was okay, but I wasn't sure, and there wasn't any research on it. Well, I became omega-6 deficient. I got dry eyes, skipped heartbeats, arthritis-like pain in my finger joints, and thin, papery skin. Classic omega-6 deficiency symptoms. Fixed them by eating sunflower seeds because they have only omega-6s, no omega-3. So I brought the balance back, and then decided, you know what? I'm trying to get people healthy. We need to deal with the ratio. So I made a blend where the ratio is right. It emphasizes omega-3 because it's missing, and then the omega-6s are made with health in mind. So you're getting an oil made with health in mind. And eventually they put me in the Canadian Health Food Association Hall of Fame for starting the industry of making oils with health in mind. So that's a short version of the story.
Well, I love that version of the story because it shows the history, it shows the why, it shows where you ended up.
Yeah.
And 1994, you're talking about 3 decades of having that product on the market, helping people. That's incredible.
And we went to 40 countries. I've given I think if you figure it all out, I've given 10,000 talks. Like if you give 5,000 talks, you know how many days that is? That's 17 years every day, including Saturday and Sunday. 17 years. So I've done twice that many. So you're talking about pretty much, and there were days when where I did two media interviews. I've done thousands, last time I looked, over 3,000. I've done probably close to 1,000 podcasts now. So I've been talking about it on and on and on. And it's always fun. It's always fun because it feels good, because I know somebody may be listening to your podcast. I will never know that person. So they're never going to give me a pat in the back and say, hey, yeah, what you said really helped me. I don't care. I know that whoever takes it seriously and makes the changes that I'm talking about is going to get benefits. How do I know that? Because I had arthritis when I was 38. Now I'm 82 and I have no pain in any of my joints. The only time I have pain is when I bang into something, and I still do that.
So my next question to you is, there's so much conversation right now around seed oils. And so many of us in the health and wellness space talk about inflammation. Inflammation is a root cause. Of course, my approach to inflammation is through turmeric, and I'd love for you to speak on turmeric with omega-3. But do you, in your mind, have an entire category of fats that you would never touch and never cook with and never bring into your home or life? Do you have a category that you think is good that we can use easily for cooking and things? And then do you use the oils that you've built almost like a supplement, like as the medicinal support, medicinal in quotes, but that essential vitamin, mineral, fats support that we need in our body? And do you think of it in those 3 categories? How can we share with our audience an approach to using this?
Okay. You might have to remind me of what I didn't answer, but let's start with the last part. Not a supplement. The competition for Udo's oil is the seed oil industry, because you have to make a distinction between the food oil foundation and the oil supplement. Fish oil is a supplement. I would not touch it with a 10-foot pole because the omega-3 and 6 EPA and DHA are 5 times more sensitive than alpha linolenic acid, which is 5 times more sensitive than the omega-6s. Super sensitive. And that's why you get the burps from it. And that's why if you get it in a glass bottle, you open it, you keep it in the fridge, you can smell the rancidity in within days. And it's also made from junk, not all of it, but often it's made from rotten heads and rotten brains and rotten,
Ew.
because they throw all the garbage in a tank. And then when they make it, they take out the oil with a chemical feast. And there's a lot of damage done because the fish oils are treated like the seed oils, but they're 25 times more sensitive. So I wouldn't use those. If you want to use a supplement, I would use krill oil. Krill oil is made by a different method. It is about close to half of it is in a form that is conserved in the body and not just burned for energy. And so it gets you better results. It has its own antioxidants. It's not damaged like the fish oils. And it's sustainable because they figured out how much they could harvest per year without destroying the population of krill and the creatures that depend on it. And they never did that with the fish oil industry. It literally is not sustainable. We were told by the experts who study those topics that by 2048, there will be no fish in the ocean at the rate we are fishing them now.
That's insane.
So we're going to have to.
That is insane. We're going to collapse the entire ocean ecosystem by 2048.
Yeah. Well, because they've gone around the world, overfished. No rules, no regulations, no looking at making it sustainable in almost everywhere. And so they've literally been around the world. We have fewer edible fish than we used to have. The fish are a third the size that they used to be 100 years ago. So we're fishing babies now. So all of that information is, and our methods for fishing are more efficient than they used to.
We just take everything and damage everyone along the way.
Yeah. Yeah, and then whatever we don't take and don't use, we just throw it out, kill it and throw it out.
Mass murder.
Right? So it's a big problem. So we're going to have to go plant-based. Right? And plant-based is where the essential fatty acids are. They're the most stable form of omega-3s because they have the fewest double bonds.
I have heard and not read.
And the body will, if you get the right amount and the ratio between them is right, then your body will make EPA and DHA and all the other hormone-like molecules that are made from it, and antioxidants and anti-inflammatories. So let's talk about anti-inflammatories. Omega-3 is super anti-inflammatory. And antioxidants and anti-inflammatory molecules deal with inflammation. But depending on what causes it, you say turmeric is anti-inflammatory. Turmeric is the best spice in the world. It also improves the body's ability to turn omega-3s into the derivatives that have so many different functions in the body. So and turmeric and ginger are both in the same family of plants. And there's not a bad thing that I can say about turmeric.
I totally agree.
Right? But in addition to turmeric being anti-inflammatory and antioxidants and protecting your tissues because of that, you also have to get away from piling inflammatory, toxic, unnatural molecules into your body. And if you look at nature, and you're not a human being who's got the frying culture in their head, if you look at how creatures eat in nature, nature's mandate for all the creatures that eat is fresh, whole, raw, organic, local, and for human beings, probably mostly plant-based. Because when Stone Age people had only rocks to hunt with, they came home without meat most of the time because animals fight back or run away. And if they didn't get any meat, then they had to eat plants because plants are really easy to hunt down and kill because they don't run away and they don't fight back. Okay. So, and we come out of subsistence existence. It's not like we had tons of food lying around the way we do now. We had to pick it and find it and dig it out, and keepability was difficult. So we and we basically had to eat it when we caught it, fresh, whole, raw, organic, local, right? Now, when we fry them or we process them in various different ways, and I think it would be safe to say that if you want to find one enemy of physical health that has a physical basis, it would have to be processing. But processing not made with health in mind. Like the oils are processed with shelf life in mind, but they're not processed with health in mind. And the damage they've done, those 60 quintillion, 1% damaged molecules, that's because they're not making oil with health in mind. If you wanted to make it with health in mind, you could do processing, but the processing methods would have to be very different, because they would have to be protective of the natural properties of the molecule.
So, for example, in India, we cook with ghee. We love ghee. It's purified butter.
Yeah.
We use it often.
Yeah.
We do use some oils, though, mustard seed oil. Now, a lot of Indians cook with olive oil, coconut oil. Would you cook with any of these?
Yeah. And sesame was also
oil is very big in Ayurveda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So so honestly, if health is your issue, fresh, whole, raw, right? Organic.
So you're saying don't cook.
So fundamentally, anytime you cook something with an oil, you can do a saturated fat, like the hard fat. So butter, ghee, coconut fit into that category. You will do less damage with those because the molecules are more stable. But you'll still burn the food, because the food will turn brown, and you can actually turn it black and turn it into smoke. And what happens is that when you overheat foods, whether it's protein or starch or oils, each one of them, independent of the others, increases inflammation and increases risk of cancer. All three. So frying, from a health perspective, frying is the dumbest thing we've ever invented to do to our food. So I say to people, okay, go get your frying pan. Yeah. Everybody's got one, right? Or your wok, or whatever it is you use, right? Go pull it out, turn it upside down, bonk yourself on the head with it really hard, associated with pain, and then throw that stupid thing out. And if you're going to cook, which already does damage, then use water. When I was a kid, we used water for cooking. Cooking meant with water. Now cooking means with oil. And we called that frying and deep frying. Frying and deep frying are absolutely health damaging, more health damaging than anything else. And you get the least damage with the hardest fats. Okay. But most people use oils for frying. And the more liquid an oil is, the more it gets damaged in the frying pan. So when you say, what about ghee? You can say, well, it's less bad, but it's not good. Because good would be don't fry at all.
Okay, but Udo, I'm Indian and Ayurvedic. We're very big fans of cooked food. So I hear you on raw organic, but
okay, can I be crude? The reason why people cook food in India, also in China, by the way, is because they shit on the land. And so then what happens is the shit bacteria end up on the land, then you grow food on them, then you get shit bacteria on the food instead of probiotics. And so this is a cultural phenomenon, and the Ayurvedic physicians don't talk like me, so they don't tell people that. So they have other rationales for doing that. But you don't need to cook the food if it's not contaminated. If it's contaminated, then you got to cook it. But if you cook it in water, you kill those bacteria too.
Do you think?
First you wash it.
Do you think our?
And so the idea of saying, well, we're from India and we like our food and we like our ghee cooked foods. I say, well, just because you like it, it's kind of like just because you can do something doesn't mean you should.
Let's take Greece.
Right? And from a health perspective,
like Greece, Italy.
From a health perspective,
But think
Sorry.
about this: Greece, Italy, Europe. Do you think our GI system is meant to eat all raw food? I've tried raw diets. I've done raw veganism at Hippocrates Health Institute. Can you do it? Yes, but that's not usually sustainable for the mass population. I've lived in Italy.
Wait, why is it sustainable for all of the animals and not for humans?
They have no choice.
See,
Yeah,
there's
there's
no
no
answer for
answer
that.
for that. They don't cook their food, that's for sure.
No, yeah. So, and it's the choice that we have that's killing
Yeah,
us,
so interesting.
right? Yeah, I eat
Okay,
mostly raw, and honestly, raw diet is better for health than anything else. You may have to work
sure.
up to it because if you're eating cooked foods, your digestive system becomes unprepared for raw foods. So you have to bring that in
True.
slowly, right? And I got to tell you, I'm 82. I got lots of energy. I'm still firing on at least two cylinders, right? And and I have as much energy as I had when I was in my
Wow.
50s.
I have a question. Have you heard of Hippocrates Health Institute, West Palm Beach? Okay,
Of course, yeah. I gave a talk at the Hippocrates
nice. So I
Institute.
went there.
They use
Go
they
ahead.
use they use
Yes.
olive oil. They should be using
Yeah.
my oil, but they've never warmed up to it. I really like those guys. By the way, I think what they're doing is
Well, they
awesome.
teach you the
Um,
power of eating a truly raw diet, of sprouts
yeah,
being the stem
yeah,
cells for our bodies. So I went there and I lived there for
yeah,
3 weeks with my mother and sister because my goal was to reverse my
hmm
mother's diabetes. And we were able to take mom
yeah,
from 20 units of insulin per meal to 4. And she has held that result.
yeah,
So to me, when we put the body in
yeah,
the right state of healing and
yeah,
hold that result.
yeah,
So for years we kept up with our
yeah,
green juice. Even now I make sure I source sprouts and I'm eating them on my salads. And whenever I want to
yeah,
detox or get clean or feel healthier, I just move my diet back towards raw, more fresh, more organic,
yep,
more local. And one of my passions right now is how can I source much better quality food? But I'm so glad
yeah,
we're talking about this because we're still using olive oil in my house. And that should stop. It should,
yeah. Well, olive oil, if it's really extra virgin olive oil, it's not been damaged the way the other oils are damaged because it's pressed from the flesh of the olive and floated off on water. So the method for making it is different, and people like olive oil because if it's really extra virgin, then it hasn't been damaged by sodium hydroxide, phosphoric acid, bleaching, and then deodorization.
got it.
Okay, but there are people who are cheating
Yeah,
on those oils, so not all of the olive oils are what they
correct.
claim to be, and you don't get any omega-3s in olive oil, and only 10% of it is omega-6. The only two things in fats you need is omega-3 and omega-6. Everything else, all the monounsaturated and saturated fats, your body can make those out of sugar and
Wow.
starch.
So you're saying
Okay,
that none of the
so
fat, go ahead.
and by the way, in Mediterranean countries, olive oil was not used for
Really?
frying. What they did is they cooked their foods in water, and then they dumped the water off, and then they poured olive oil on the vegetables and they did that because oils enhance flavors and they improve the absorption of oil soluble
Correct.
nutrients. And there are oil soluble nutrients in all
Right.
whole foods. And so there you're getting it. And why people like oil in foods is because you get health
Right.
benefits from it. But then use an oil that doesn't damage you because you damaged it. Use an oil that's made with health in mind. Put it on after the food comes off the heat if you're
Right.
cooking in water. And it's literally compatible with everything that you eat. Okay. Let me answer one more
Yeah.
question that you asked that I
Sure.
never got to. Omega 6s and
Yes.
seed oils. Everybody's blabbing about don't use seed oils, don't use omega 6s. Okay. Now, was it really interesting? Um, the people who say that have only done
Hmm.
half their homework. And why is that? Because they found out, we use the way the oils are damaged. Nobody talks about that because the people who do the studies get their grants from the oil industry. So they won't say, oh, by the way, you shouldn't be damaging
Right.
those oils. So they don't say anything about it. But they use those damaged oils in studies. And then they see something negative comes out of the study. And then they blame it on the oil when they should have blamed it on the damage done to the oil, either by industry or by food preparation. Okay. And all of those people haven't done the homework they need to do to look at how oils are made and why, because why they're doing damage, because they have been damaged by industry. And so that's what happened. When I said, wait, it's essential and it gives me cancer and kills you. That's what got me to look deeper. None of those people have done that homework. And you know what else is interesting? I've been talking about oils now for over 40 years. I've been a lot of places. I don't think anybody who's serious about oils doesn't know about me or the existence of an Udo who talks about oils and claims to make oils with health in mind. And some of them behind my back have said, oh, he must be in bed with the oil industry. And they spent a lot of money on advertising oils that we know are bad, like flax oil, which used to be called linseed oil. And they make up these stories, and not a single one of those people has ever talked to me. And there have been probably, in my 40 plus years, there have been at least 20 books that claim that oils are bad, and usually they sell some other supplement behind it, but not one of those people has ever talked to me. There was a guy in Oregon, and a retired biological science professor, who claimed that you don't need essential fatty acids if you get enough B vitamins. Well, there were 6,000 studies that said that this guy is full of BS, right? And then he came up in 1989. He came up with an idea about who I was and what I was doing, and that what I was doing was not what I'm doing, and that I was in bed with the oil industry because he was dissing the oil industry. And he never talked to me. And he sent this out to his people. And I have in my computer an answer to what he sent out. But I never sent it to him because, I just said, there's always going to be crackpots, and you can't spend your life chasing crackpots. I just want to stay focused on doing the job that I know is helping people.
And so what you're saying is, so many of the oils that we're consuming are so harmful to us because of the way they're processed. They're damaged in the process and they're rancid. So that's an easy concept.
And the way we use them in a frying pan.
We shouldn't be frying them. So all of that is true. I agree with you. So all the oils in my house, I'm willing to throw in the trash. That one's easy. Now, when I do cook, because I will cook food, I'm not going to eat 100% raw, nor can I get my household to listen to that idea yet. Can we always move more towards raw? Absolutely. But I don't think my audience will go 100% raw. There's two things.
No, but as much as you can, you do it step by step. You go start with frying, do a little more cooking in water and eat a little more raw, and just go in that direction and take your time. It's like it might be 3 months, 6 months, might take you 2 years to get your system used to it. But when your system's used to it, you were made for that. Because until we got civilized, we were eating raw.
Here's my question. When we cook a vegetable in Indian cooking, I was taught by my mom, we actually do start with oil, ghee, or butter. But let's say it's ghee or butter to start the spices cooking. Our cumin, we want that to release its aroma. So we have a little bit of that process with the fat first, which I can test if I can release it. But then we do add water for the cooking process. You don't have to use a high volume of fat for cooking. So I do agree with you. We can switch to water. You probably have to pay a little more attention to the cooking so you don't burn it. We can get away with a lot by throwing more fat into the meals. But how do you feel about that initial bit of fat used with the spices? Or would you try to let that go too?
That's one of the Russian roulette questions. You don't get away with anything. The oil, you put the oil in there. I know how chapatis are made and how that. But here's the thing, you want to fry the spices, right, to get all the oil stuff out. Well, you don't need to do that. You don't need to fry them. You can just put them in oil. And in fact, now we have blenders. You take your spices and blend them and put them in oil. You could have them sitting. You can have them sitting in a little bottle. if you want to do it, and then shake up the bottle, put it in, because what's oil soluble will come out of the
True.
spice. Because, like, for instance, turmeric has water soluble benefits and oil soluble benefits. So take it with oil, but take it with an oil that's made
True.
with health in mind. Don't take it with poison.
True.
Right? So the idea of using oils, yes, but using it that way, I'm telling you, that's because it's a warm climate. They didn't have
True.
refrigeration, and the hygiene stuff that they hadn't dealt with the way that we've dealt with it in the West, I guess you would say. But that most people had dealt with for most of history.
So another question.
It was just a way, it's kind of like, it's better to flash fry the food and kill all the bugs on the outside of it than not to do that and eat the bugs and then get diarrhea or whatever else you get from you getting unfriendly microorganisms going through.
It makes total sense. Hygiene is a big reason why so many cultures don't eat certain foods and cook certain ways. One question I have is, for example, I'm mega omega-3 deficient. I go to functional medicine. We do big blood panels on me, and we get really clear that Shivani is lacking in all these minerals, all these vitamins, and definitely these essential fatty acids. And so I have a battle with fish oil because I'm vegetarian. And so I finally found a fish oil that doesn't give fish burps, but I still don't want to take it. But a lot of people say you have to take fish oil and you can't use a plant-based omega-3. And
you know where that started? I'm glad you asked. The week in 1987, the week we came out with flaxseed oil, one of the fish oil companies started that thing. The body can't convert. But here's the thing, and this is like a little bit technical, but it's important to know. So omega-3 and omega-6, alpha-linolenic acid and linoleic acid, come from plants, are the essential fatty acids, omega-3 and omega-6. Both of those use the same enzymes in our cells to be converted into all of their different derivatives. And both of them are converted into many different derivatives. So the fish oil people say your body can't convert plant omega-3 into fish omega-3. And why would that be? Well, the reason is because you have a ton of omega-6 in your diet and you have not enough omega-3 in your diet. When you balance those two, they both get converted because they use the same system. And what makes it a lie is nobody complains about people not being able to convert omega-6s into the derivatives, right? Nobody complains about that because it's not a problem, and it's the same enzymes that do the conversion, right? So what they're really saying, what they should be saying is, most of you, 99% of you, are not getting enough plant-based omega-3 and get too much omega-6. And because of that, your body is not able to convert the omega-3s because they're crowded out by the omega-6s. When you get them balanced, they both get converted by the same enzymes into all of their derivatives. Now, I'm 82. I do not use fish oil. I do not even use krill oil. I am out to prove that, in your brain, there's a lot of DHA, which is an omega-3, right? And so they say you got to have fish oil for your brain, and fish is brain food. That's an old saying from a long time ago. Well, I am out to prove that you don't need to take the derivatives if you get the balance and the amount of the basic material right.
So,
and when you look at the government, it says 1 gram of alpha-linolenic acid is the recommended. Well, if you take 1 gram and you're taking like 20 grams of omega-6, you're still crowding out the omega-3s. So the government advice is not correct either, right? And why is that? Because government is beholden to industry. Government is not truth-telling. Government has
True.
agendas, right? And some of those agendas do not serve you.
I have two more questions.
Right?
One is, if someone's severely omega-3 deficient,
Right?
which most of us are, would you recommend starting with
Yeah.
flax oil, and then because we get finally where we need to be, then we can move into Udo's 369, which gives us the balance? And my second question is,
Yeah.
functional medicine told me, oh no, like flax oil is not good for you, Shivani. You're estrogen dominant. You have no progesterone. Stay away from flax oil. So is that just a fictitious idea that's not true?
BS. Okay, so let me. I still have a couple of other questions from your
Sure.
previous questions. So the first one is omega-6 and inflammation. Omega-6 turns into eicosanoids that are pro-inflammatory, that take part in the healing process. And when the healing is done, then the omega-6 pro-inflammatory molecules, the body stops making them because the job's done. And omega-3 is part of the system that what's the word? It basically writes shotgun on that system. Okay, it controls, it regulates omega-6 turning into inflammatory molecules. But that's a natural function, and it's important. Inflammation is important for healing. And the immune system creates that inflammation, by the way. So to isolate something so that it doesn't get out of control in your body, to isolate it, and then it fixes it, and then it's taken down. The long-term inflammation that comes from omega-6s comes from the damaged molecules that nobody talks about. And when you eat your omega-6 oils and you eat too much of them and you don't have enough omega-3s, they pile up and they get you long-term inflammation. Now, turmeric won't fix that.
I know, it's not enough. You need it.
You have to stop. You have to stop bringing damaged molecules in that cause that inflammation. The immune system creates that because it's trying to figure out what the hell do I do with these stupid molecules that never existed in nature. And that's why you get chronic inflammation, because the body's not able to deal with it.
That's why I teach take your turmeric, but we need to do a lot of work.
Yeah. So turmeric builds down inflammation in many cases, but it can't turn toxic oil molecules into natural oil molecules. And so there's a limit to what it can do. And that's why you need to also make some changes and get the toxins out of your system. No pesticides, no plastics, no damaged oils. That would be a good start, right? And and industrial chemicals. There's a lot of inflammatory industrial chemicals. Okay, so that's one. Now your two questions. You had two questions.
Yes, one is, if you're severely omega-3 deficient, should you take flax oil first and then do the balancing oil second?
No, because you actually need to do two things. You need to bring in the missing omega-3s, and they need to be made with health in mind. And you need to switch out your damaged omega-6s with omega-6s made with health in mind. And what we did in the blend is we gave you both. So when you start with flax oil, you start doing flax oil, you get the omega-3s, but you keep taking your damaged omega-6s. We want you off those, right? So I started with flax oil because of the richness in omega-3, but it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. So what I say to people, we've made one thing that you can use for the rest of your life. You don't have to figure out how much omega-3 do I need and when do I need to make the switch and all of that. And because it's richer in omega-3 than omega-6, it will deal with your omega-3 deficiency, as well as dealing with your omega-6 toxicity. Okay, and then you had one other question.
Yes, so are we allowed to consume flax oil if we have estrogen dominance?
Oh, estrogen dominance. Complete BS. So let me tell you how it works. First of all, the estrogens, they're phytoestrogens, and phytoestrogens are weak estrogens, plant-based weak estrogens, okay? They're in the seed, and the seed is a pretty rich source of phytoestrogens. And before menopause, those phytoestrogens block the strong estrogens that come both from made in your body and that come from toxic chemicals, because some of the pesticides have very strong estrogen activity and some of the industrial chemicals do too. So these phytoestrogens block those. They compete with them for receptor sites. And so they actually lower your estrogen level because the strong ones are being crowded out. You want to do that. Now, after menopause, when your body stops making them, and if you've taken the strong estrogens out of your body, then the phytoestrogens in flax will give you some estrogen activity. And so they make it better before menopause, and they make it better after menopause too. And the doctors are not trained in it. They just hear the word estrogen and they go ballistic. And they totally don't know what they're talking about because they haven't studied it. And then you know how it is. Somebody says, and then somebody else copies, and somebody else copies, and somebody else copies. Well, if the first guy who started it was wrong, they're all wrong all the way down the line.
And we are talking a lot in menopause right now about that tanking of estrogen being insanely detrimental to our health. So this whole big conversation about bioidentical hormones that's happening is saying we need to increase estrogen as we're going towards menopause. And you're saying flax oil can
and the single best no, I didn't say that. The single best way to do that is to use flax seeds, but you have to blend them. The phytoestrogens are in the seed, and they're actually water soluble because they're estrogen with glycoside. They're, I think, I forget what they're called, secoisoresonol glucoside or glycoside. Okay, so they're water soluble. They don't end up in the oil.
Interesting.
They're not all soluble. So when you take flax oil, it's only maybe 2% of what's in the flaxseed ends up in the oil.
So we should buy flaxseed, grind it, and put it in a dark container in our fridges and consume it.
No, the best thing to do is like do a smoothies or shakes, and just blow them in the smoothies or shakes, and just break them down when you make it. So make it, eat it.
Don't grind it,
right? Because if you grind them and then you put it in a bag or a jar, there's oxygen gets in, then it starts to work with it. You can do that maybe short time, but it's better. Just keep it completely fresh.
So let's say you buy flaxseed. Are we supposed to store it in the fridge?
You don't need to store flax seeds in the fridge, but they should be organic.
So let's say I bought organic flaxseed, kept it in my pantry. Every time I'm about to make my protein shake, grind it first in the blender and then put your protein shake ingredients in there. And then you have...
No, if you make a protein shake, just throw it in there and the blender will just powder it.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah. And then you need more water because this mucilage fiber on flax can absorb 6 times its weight in water. So you need to add water, otherwise it gets pretty thick because the mucilage would suck up all the water.
So then when it comes to other superfoods, do you spend time taking any of them, like chia seeds and hemp seeds and all these others, or are you the biggest flaxseed fan that there is?
Well, flaxseed has 4 times more omega. 3 times more omega-3 than omega-6. Sometimes 3 to 4 times more omega-3 than omega-6. Hemp seed oil has 3 times more omega-6 than omega-3. That's why I don't use it. It's good. Eat hemp seeds. That's cool.
Yeah, but it might not be great for me.
I don't need the oil like that.
I'm severely omega-3 deficient.
Yeah, you need omega-3s. I would say, but you're probably omega-6 dominant as well because you're getting something. So I would say use the blend and take a tablespoon per 50 pounds of body weight per day, or whatever it takes to make your skin smooth and velvety, because they form a barrier in the skin against the loss of moisture and make your skin really nice so you don't need gunk on the outside.
You have changed my whole life today, Udo. I'm so excited.
And you'll see that if you then measure the amount, if you do your what is it? What do you do? The test you
Omega
do for
3,
the
yeah, they do a
omegas.
big cardiac panel on me and lipid panel, and it's just very clear that
Yeah,
I'm in
yeah,
the severe red. And it's interesting because I have very dry
yeah,
skin, so I'm constantly using like
yeah,
face
yeah,
oil, cream, and
yeah,
I always feel
yeah,
dry.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's when your skin is dry, you need more oil, but you need the right
Correct.
kind of oil. And we're doing twice as much omega 3s, omega 6. They form a barrier in the skin against the loss of moisture. Like people say, how do I get skin
Yeah.
like yours?
Well,
Yeah,
I
take my
have a
oil.
final question, and I have a feeling I'm not going to like your
Yeah.
answer at all. As an Ayurvedic,
Okay, well then let me just pat you on the back. Say, there. It's okay. Everything's okay. Everything will be okay. Okay, go ahead. Ask
as
the
an
question.
Ayurvedic practitioner, I recommend something called
Yeah,
abhyang. We recommend oil pulling. Like we're into oil in big ways. Oil pulling in the morning,
yeah.
full body oil. So what would you use if we're
What do you mean? What do you mean
so
full
we
body
take
oil?
sesame oil is one of our favorites, and I recommend doing a full body massage starting at the feet, working up to the neck for oleation of the body and the joints. But as the king of
Yeah, well, and people in India do it with their
yes,
kids too. And it's one of the reasons why Indian kids have really
right?
nice
So are
skin.
you not pro
Yeah,
sesame oil?
sesame oil only contains omega 6, no omega 3.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I knew
Okay,
I wouldn't love your
but let me
answer.
talk about let me talk
Yeah.
about oil pulling. Oil pulling, it makes sense. If you have anything that's oil soluble that's coming out of your body, which would happen if you have, which would have to
Right.
happen, right? And you do an oil pulling where you swish oil around in your mouth for like a tablespoon or 2 tablespoons, swish it around, swish it around, swish it around for 15
Mhm.
minutes or whatever, and then spit it out. Well, anything that's oil soluble that comes in contact with the oil that you
Yeah.
put in your mouth is going to end up dissolving in the
Right.
oil. That's how
Correct.
chemistry works. So, and you could probably, if it's making your mouth cleaner than the rest of your body, then more oil soluble dirt will end up going in that direction because that's how molecules
Sure.
spread out. So oil pulling makes sense. But you want to do your oil pulling with an oil that is made with
Correct.
health in mind, because if you're doing oil pulling with an oil that has 60 quintillion damaged molecules in a tablespoon, some of them will be absorbed into your body
Correct.
too.
Just like eating it.
So you don't want to
Yeah.
do that. Yeah, and the second thing is you can sweat out oil soluble
Correct.
toxins, but then you have to push the oil. You have to take more oil, and the toxins will end up in the oil part of your sweat. And that was proved with people with
Mm.
Agent Orange, which is oil soluble, 2,4-D, 2,4,5-T, that Vietnam veterans were poisoned by. They were able to show, they measure the Agent Orange in the sweat, in the oil part of their sweat, and monitor its decrease in the
Wow.
body. And oil soluble toxins are harder to get rid of than water. Water is easy. You just sweat your
Sure.
bum off, right? Drink more water. Well, oil will do that too, because your sweat is made up of oil and of water.
So
And more oil you have, so you may have to high grade the oil, like take more oil than you
got it.
usually would, because you push it, because it will move out to your
Right.
extremities, because the essential fatty acids have negative charges and tend to repel each
Interesting.
other. So it's a nice system. You can also do oil enema. And oil
Yeah.
enema, there are crypts inside the anus. I don't know if you've
Mm.
ever heard this. You know there are crypts inside the anus that are part of the lymphatic
Yes,
system?
we do
Do you know
lots of
about that?
enemas in Panchakarma in Ayurveda in India. To,
Okay, but in water
we
enema?
do water enemas, but they also do oil.
Okay, so I don't know where it came from. I've never seen it in the physiology
Yeah.
books in medicine, but they're crypts inside the anus. They're part of the lymphatic system. That's where the lymphatic system gets rid of toxins that it picks up from the
Yes.
extremities. And then what happens is they load up in those crypts, the toxins. And every time you have a bowel movement, the excess is pushed into
Sure.
the toilet, right? So what you can do is you can do water enema, get rid of all the stuff in your colon, and then do like an 8-ounce oil retention enema where you swish it around. And, you have to be really careful because you have to hold your sphincter closed because oil is very slippery and it's very easy to lose the oil. So you do that, you let it out. The first time I did that, it smelled like all the pesticides I sprayed.
Wow.
It was unbelievable. It stunk unbelievably bad. And I've only done 2 other ones. One was a month later, it was okay. One was about 5 years later, it was okay. I'm kind of getting ready for another one. But this is very, very helpful and again, the oil has to be an oil that is not damaged. So you could use any oil that's made with health in mind. I guess you could use organic butter.
I was thinking that, but I was like, I'm not rubbing organic butter all over my body. That's not happening.
Well, you have to warm it up so it's liquid, because you have to introduce it, and it'll stay liquid in your body because your body's warm, right? But you could do it with ghee, and you could do it with coconut oil, and but I use it.
I think coconut oil is going to have to be the winner. My audience is not going to sit there and put butter in their mouths for oil pulling and butter all over. But do you have an oil that doesn't have a strong fragrance or taste that we can use for oil pulling and for full body massage?
I would say coconut would probably be the easiest.
So. But I'm going to test this theory.
Yeah, I don't mind. Some people don't like the taste of my oil. They use it, take it off a spoon, and then I say, so you don't like my oil? Okay, I get it. So how do you take it? Well, I took it off a spoon. I said, well, when was the last time you took a cooking oil off a spoon? She said, well, I never do that. So, well, why are you doing it with mine?
Salad?
You're supposed to mix it in food. Spread your intake over the course of the day and take about a tablespoon per 50 pounds of body weight per day in winter, or whatever makes your skin soft and velvety. In summer, you need less than in winter, because in winter you burn more of it for energy.
I love this idea, and I love this simple way to bring omega-3s back into our life for myself, for my family. This has been so illuminating, Udo, and I would love to have you back on the podcast, because I think there's so much more.
Yeah, I want to talk about total health based in nature and human nature and human nature. Definitely. So what do you weigh?
I weigh, we'll say 130 pounds.
Okay. Okay. 150. Okay. So 3 tablespoons. If you take 3 tablespoons a day and you do that consistently, then probably the next time you do your blood test for omega-3 and 6,
I'm buying this today.
It's going to look a lot better. But on the other side, you need to get rid of the damaged omega-6 oils. Honestly, more health problems come from damaged oils than any other part of nutrition, and more health benefits come from making the oil change your body needs than any other part of nutrition.
It makes total sense, because that oil is touching everything we do. So it's not just processed food, which we know is horrible for us and is too high in the omega-6s. But also, if every dinner I make in this house and every lunch I eat and every breakfast I eat is cooked in that oil, we're damaging everything we eat. So this makes complete sense.
100%.
Well, Udo, we are hitting the past an hour mark. If the listeners are still here,
yes,
they're probably like,
I know. We could rant and rave for another 5 hours.
So thank you to all the listeners who hung in with us for this episode. You are talking to and listening to a legend. Udo is a legend in our world of health and wellness.
Yeah, but just remember that my feet touch the same earth as yours do.
But
so don't put me on too much of a pedestal, because I don't like falling.
Of course. But it's so incredible. I'm in the supplement world. I'm in the herbal world, always researching, always looking in the science for how can we improve. So to me, it's always so inspirational when I get to talk to a founder who has that zealous love for shifting humanity and shifting us towards a better world, because we need that. And we are going to do another whole episode on nature for health. Perfect. Well, for everyone here, thank you all for listening to this episode today. Udo, do you have any final words, or where people can find you to follow you for your wisdom?
I have a website. I have two websites. One is udoschoice.com, and the other one is udoerasmus.com. And on udoerasmus.com, we talk about some other things. It's a work in progress. There's some good things on it, but it needs a lot of work. And I'm just getting started on putting all that together. And then Udo's Choice, we talk about oils, and we also talk about digestive enzymes and probiotics, which was the second thing I worked with. And then with fiber, and then with greens, and that's as far as I got in the product arena so far. And then I'm on Facebook, and I'm on Instagram, and I'm on LinkedIn, and I have a YouTube channel, Udo Erasmus. So I'm not hard to find. If you just put on Udo, UDO, on Google, I show up on the first page because there are very few Udos on this planet.
I'm sure.
And then if you look at Udo Erasmus /podcasts on Google, then there's podcasts that I've done like this one on oils and other stuff, and then other ones on health and human nature.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining me as a guest today.
And the last advice, you were given an incredible gift made out of dust, air, water, and sunlight, all mixed together in a way that can have the human experience. Be present in the space you occupy and enjoy that gift because it's temporary.
It is. It absolutely is. Well, thank you.
And out of you enjoying that gift, you'll be nicer to be around than everybody else. And you might even inspire somebody else to also do that.
It's very, very true. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Udo. Yeah. This has been incredible. I have learned so much from you. I'm going to change up my oils today. I have a Sprouts down the street from me where I shop for a lot of my foods and things. So I'll be buying your oil to switch up my omega-369. Thank you for solving one of my health struggles that I have.
Good.
I appreciate it deeply. And to all the listeners here on the Fusionary Health Podcast today, thanks for sticking with us for this incredible episode. Yes.
And next time we talk, I will be interrogating you about what you're doing right and what you're not doing right.
That sounds great. I'm always ready to understand and learn and change. We're biodynamic humans. We have to keep evolving.
That's what makes you a good practitioner. You got to be a work in progress, and you got to be a student if you're going to be a teacher and a master.
Exactly. Aren't we all students on this long, beautiful journey called life? Yeah.
Aren't we?
Well, thank you everyone for listening today. If you want any more info on the Fusionary Health Podcast, visit me at drshivani.com. Definitely follow Udo and his incredible wisdom and podcast. And we'll see you next week on the Fusionary Health Podcast.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks for joining me for this episode. Check out our sponsor, Fusionary Formulas, the potent turmeric supplement used by doctors around the U.S. for patients with pain and inflammation. www.fusionaryformulas.com. I'm your host, Dr. Shivani Gupta. For more, visit shivanigupta.com. Subscribe to this podcast in Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Click the follow button or subscribe in any of the apps that you use. That's all I've got for you on the Fusionary Health Podcast this week. You have the power to transform your health and achieve vibrant health starting today.